सब्सक्राइब करें हमारा ऑफिशियल यूट्यूब चैनल और बेल आइकन दबाकर पाएं सभी नोटिफिकेशन।
9 minutes, I will kind of go up. Then the speakers know it's time to kind of stop. So, with that in mind, and I must agree with Vebjørn, world-class speakers. I mean, this is been a very interesting day. And before we'll have the honourable guest, our Prime Minister, I will give the floor to the President of the Olympic and Paralympic Committee and Confederation of Sports, Mr. Tom Tvedt.
Minister Linda Hofstad Helleland.
Just shows you how important this conference is, how important this issue is. On the behalf of the host, we are very proud to give the floor to the Prime Minister of Norway, Erna Solberg.
Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, you know, sports plays a vital role in people's lives. For some of us, when our football team loses, it's a bad day at work, especially where I come from. Happily, they are winning these days. But great sporting events and achievements make us all proud and happy. They bring us together. It's also part of the feeling for the nations. And sports influence our health and our quality of life. That is also why we are so disappointed when athletes cheat. Doping is one of the major threats to our sporting values. Fair play and clean sports is crucial to the integrity of sports and sports competitions. Sports movements show their credibility or lack of credibility in the fight for these values. Over the last few years, we have witnessed considerable challenges and threats to this integrity. And we need to stand together, united, in the global fight against doping in sports. And we must do so with the best interests of the clean athletes at heart. So I'm pleased to experience the initiative that has been taken by the World Forum for Ethics in Business, Fair Sports and Anti-Doping Norway in organizing this impressive event. And as Prime Minister of Norway, I'm proud to be head of a government that is securing a solid and sustainable support and funding for our national anti-doping organization, Anti-Doping Norway. The anti-doping structure in Norway is based on the principles of independence, separation of power, and providing a transparent and fair system. And I'm proud of the work Anti-Doping Norway does and the results that they are achieving, both through their extensive anti-doping program the organization has developed here in Norway, but also through the international anti-doping involvement and the bilateral anti-doping collaboration taking place between Anti-Doping Norway, Kenya, Turkey, China, and today also the United States. The Ministry of Culture receives valuable inputs and contributions to national anti-doping issues and the Norwegian anti-doping policies through Anti-Doping Norway. Also ongoing is an and responsibilities such as the Council of Europe's Anti-Doping Convention, the UNESCO International Convention Against Doping in Sports, and lately, a joint support to WADA's Vice President Linda Hofstad Helleland, who is also my Cabinet's Minister for Children and Equality. So finally, I would like to underline the importance of basing the worldwide fight against doping on the principles of good governance. In fact, some would say sports are also always independent. Yes, they are. But sometimes the people also have to make a choice and to secure the values that anti-doping work is really based on. Without that, I think the support for sports will become decreasing and decreasing. And I think that's why it's so important to do it. That's also why support my Minister Linda Hofstad Helleland in her role as Vice President of WADA and her efforts for good governance and being an advocate for clean athletes. This is about the values we want our children to live up to. And that's not cheating. That's in fact fair competition. So all anti-doping work must be transparent, open and accountable, done with the respect of human rights and the respect of rule of law. Looking at the program for today's conference, I am sure that today will be an interesting and useful international anti-doping work and will show that it goes forward. We as governments need to take a leading role in the way forward, not to intervene into sports, but to make sure that sports continues to be clean, transparent, and in line with the values of good governance. So I hereby declare the conference Clean Sports, Fair Outcome for Open. Thank you.
So, thank you. Thank you, Prime Minister. Strong words. We now, I mean, you must probably, I think you understand, we're not, you and me, going to have a date here or something. We're gonna do something here. So what I would like now to get on the stage, the U.S. Ambassador to Norway, Kenneth J. Braithwaite. Welcome. The Vice President of WADA and the Minister of Children and Equality, Linda Hofstad Helleland. The President of the Olympic and Paralympic Committee, Tom Tvedt, up again. And the acting chair, or the gold medalist, I will go there, 800 meter and 90, very Rodal. So what we are going to do now is at this moment.
Who is not beautiful here?
I start again. These 5 beautiful people, thank you, Prime Minister, are now going to witness an agreement between USADA and the Anti-Doping Norway. And I would like the 2 CEOs, Anders Solheim and Travis Taggart, to come to the stage and sign the document. Please. Then you have to witness them. You can see up there, signing an agreement, Anti-Doping Norway, U.S. Anti-Doping Agency, USADA. Okay. Then we do a proper team photo. You have to get closer to each other. Linda and... Thank you. Just be seated. You can be seated. I now give the floor to the ambassador, please.
Well, like the Prime Minister, though, I must begin by saying, Jan, you said everybody gets 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Yet when I came in, you briefed me and told me I had 3 minutes.
Yeah.
So where's the fair and level playing field in the time? I'm just wondering.
There are ongoing deals between USA and Norway at the moment. So
okay. Another thing I guess we have to negotiate. Madam Prime Minister, share the Prime Minister's concern over the fact that, unfortunately, things have required us to meet in a forum like this, to sign a document like this, to make sure something that all of us in our hearts hold sacred, that is the profound, the successes of our athletes, and know that they're done truly through hard work, dedication, a set of international regulations and standards that ensure that everybody is participating fairly. This is especially important to me. Some of you may recall that before I came here to Norway, I was approached by the Norwegian ambassador to the United States, the Honorable Kåre Os, who challenged me to a bet. That bet was in Olympic medals. Later, I owed him pizza for each one of those medals. So we want to make sure that we maintain a fair and level playing field. But truly, the work that you're doing in order to ensure that we do provide this type of a level playing field is so important in the engagement between all of our nations. And so I salute you, I commend you, and on behalf of the United States of America, it's an honor to be with you today. Thank you.
I think you're going out there. Okay, okay. As someone is following the Prime Minister out, and the next speaker up is Johan Olav Koss. I think I will find some interesting people to interview, so you'll be safe. I see Hajo Seppelt here. Hajo, good to see you. Take the trip from Germany. This is award-winning. He is one of the journalists who kind of, well, there is a reason you're in Oslo at the moment and not in another country, let's put it that way. Can you, because we were laughing and we're smiling and we are in beautiful Norway on a beautiful summer day, take the audience into the world of the dark forces, into the power battles of what we love and call sport.
I should introduce you now in the world of the bad sides of sports. What do you mean?
Yes.
That takes maybe 1 week.
Yes.
I have only 3 minutes, you told me, so it's a little complicated. Yeah, what I can say is ARD German television. I'm working for the public state-run TV in Germany. We are working on doping stories now for, I would say, 10 years, and we have a special investigative department, research department, and I'm the head author for this department. So we are able to evaluate, and to look to the dark sides of sports. So I'm traveling all around the world. I have a senator miles and more card already for this reason, because I'm really traveling a lot, but in the moment I have many other people in my department. It's getting better and better, and to be honest, it looks like that many people don't like what we are doing. That's not only Russia. We have a lot of really hot discussions with the Russians, and they don't like at all what we are doing, and alongside with whistleblowers like Grigor Rodchenkov and the famous Stepanovs, which helped me to uncover the truth about the prevalence of doping in Russia years ago. We are obviously treated as state enemies in Russia. It's not that funny, to be honest, and I can say that also here, that ARD decided that I'm not going to Russia to cover the World Cup, because there have been serious security concerns and threats by the Russians with respect to so-called state-run investigation or investigative committee, who wanted to interrogate me and said they will do everything to force me to do that. And on the other side, there have been also threats by individuals from Russia with respect to our coverage just recently. So at the bottom line, the German Minister for Foreign Affairs, in cooperation with the German Federal Criminal Police Office, decided that it shouldn't go, and because you can imagine that ARD has a kind of responsibility for staff people, I supported that decision. So I'm not working in Russia, but they can everything to try to limit our work. They can try to hinder us. They will never avoid investigative journalism, to say it very clearly.
Thank you, Hajo. And we understand that you take the risk in the mission of the anti-doping committee. What's the biggest challenges right now, taken away from Russia, taken away from the cooperation by the sport movements, international federation, IOC, governments, public authorities, WADA, and so on and so on and so on? Where are the challenges right now?
The biggest challenge is a very old one, and I think I'm now for 33 years working as a journalist, 10 years in this special department, 20 or 25 years focused on doping, and what I can say is the number one topic is the clear conflict of interest. It simply doesn't work. That the promoter of sports is controlling its own business. That simply is not possible. And I know what different opinions are currently in the public domain within WADA. I know that the people from the sports side who are really desperately trying to increase the influence of the IOC. This is one side. On the other side, I see Linda and all the other guys, and I'm a journalist, so I can say it very clearly here. The other side are some politicians who try to get more independence in the fight against doping. The International Testing Agency is one good example where people try to hose the whole world, because the International Testing Agency is in the hands of the Olympic movement. So they pay it, so there is another clear conflict of interest, and it's very clear for me. If you want a level playing field, if you want to have all the people on board who are really fighting seriously and independently for clean sports, you need to give the people outside of the sports movement much more power. Otherwise, we will lose this fight, and we will not lose it for just a few days or weeks or months. We will lose it for many, many years. I think we are currently at a stage where we have to decide what we want. Do we want to empower the athletes themselves? I think the athletes are the core of the Olympic movement, are the core of the sports movement. And I have more and more the feeling that it's a desperate fight between old, let's say, the old wings in the sports movement and the new development of empowering athletes.
Hajo Seppelt, ladies and gentlemen. I think it's important to, in early doors, just realize what we are talking about here. Well, Johan Olav, you are back. I mean, for the Norwegians, you don't need a lot of introduction. It's an old famous quiz that how many gold medals do you have at the Olympics? And someone will say 3, because you got 3 at Lillehammer, but you got 1 before as well. So 4 gold medals, and are founder of Right to Play, and now very vital founding of Fair Sport. Ladies and gentlemen, Johan Olav Foss.
Thank you, Noga. I got a call from an American venture fund capitalist called Jim Schwartz telling me about a film we're making called Icarus, and now he had landed in the big middle of the largest doping fraud in the history of the world since the Eastern German discovery. Over the phone, he asked me, Johan, we have to start something together. We have to start Fair Sport in protection of whistleblowers in sport. Jim and the team around Icarus had protected Grigory Rodchenko for already 1 year, and the pressure was just increasing on the client and the film team. Jim told me there were nowhere to get support for whistleblowers in sport, and Grigory was not the first one. He alluded very well known of the Stefanovs. I left the fight for doping-free sport already in 2003 after my term at the WADA Foundation and Executive Board was terminated, and I focused fully on developing Right to Play. Getting a call in 2016, understanding that the situation in the anti-doping world had not improved significantly, but seemed even to worsen over the years, scared me a bit, but also challenged me to work with Jim and our fellow board members, Ed, Louisa, and David, to form and create Fair Sport. Fortunately, we also found Claudia Bockel available to be our executive director, a great leader who led the IOC Athletes Commission in their pursuit of clean sport for athletes. We believe that clean sport for athletes is critical, and we should strive to make it a reality. We owe that first and foremost to our children coming after us to want to participate in a fair sport. But we also, secondly, owe this to the heroes before us who won clean and created the best integrity of sport. Sport is an incredible arena. and for a society to mobilize and to lead more democratic, truthful, and honest society. And we have to protect it. Now, sport is also a reflection of society. And we have the same problems and temptation as in real life. Therefore, we have to create systems that protect clean athletes from cheaters and corrupt leaders in sport. So Fair Sport vision is that sport respects athletes' rights and voices and are free of corruption and coercion. So we started first in protection of whistleblowers, and of course, what happened to Grigory Rodchenkov, we created this organization. We found that it was incredibly difficult for active athletes to speak up against inside the system. It's against their own national organization or international federation. It's almost impossible, as they feel, well, rightly or not, that they will be excluded from future competition and eliminated from their own possibility to achieve their dreams. You hear athletes at the time saying, I focus on myself and try to limit the information around me about doping so it don't distract me. There's nothing I can do about it anyway. And I can only do things to improve my own performance. We believe this has to change, and that more athletes have to speak up. We at Fair Sport, therefore, work on empowering athletes both individually and collectively. We believe in the best interest for clean athletes to stand up and protect their own sports. We also found out through a survey over 2,000 athletes answered that they felt their voices were not heard, and that sport leadership who represented them was mostly corrupt and not trustworthy. They also said they would support others who speak up against people who break the rule in sport. Adrian Morin here today will talk much more about this, and we will update from the WADA's first Global Athlete Forum held in Calgary earlier this month. There's been 4 cases, well-known cases, only discovered due to whistleblowers. We started with the Balco case back in 2001, where there's a tipster called Trevor Graham, and kind of a disgruntled coach who wasn't paid, who tipped about Marion Jones and Tim Montgomery. And we know the outcome of that. Lance Armstrong is probably the biggest case, which was first come into investigation with Floyd Landis reported to the Federal Bureau, and Jeff Novakits from FDA started an investigation. But it never ended, or it didn't end before our friend Travis Tigert, now we call the anti-doping sheriff, finally got the truth to the end. At the same time, we learn about the Stefanovs and their persistent effort to bring attention to the prevalence of doping in Russia. Harjo Seppolt investigated information when no one else would. That resulted in a thoroughly documented IC investigation focused attention on Grigory Rodchenkov and the role of the Russian doping system. Rodchenkov, feeling threatened because of his much deeper knowledge of the secret Russian doping program, he defected to the United States. Brian Fogel documented Rodchenkov information in Icarus, and that forced WADA to appoint Professor Richard McLaren to investigate Rodchenkov allegations, leading to his meticulously documented report. The IC report, McLaren's report, finally forced a response from sport governing bodies, communities. We would not have known any of this if it wasn't for the Stefanovs hadn't persisted. In other words, there's no permanent existing system to deal with these massive corruption issues on the scale that they require. All of the responses, Harjo, IC, Icarus, McLaren, have been ad hoc, either external to sport governance or driven by media pressure. It has also become evident that the sport itself has very little capacity or interest to follow up on these cases, and even more interesting, to be seen to be complicit in covering up each of them. We know about the IAAF case, and now possibly under investigation in the IBU. Despite this exposure of corruption in sport that we have witnessed over the last several years, we see very limited change in sport governance and sport organization interest to eliminate corruption in sport. We see that economics and politics of international sports competition creates an environment where corruption is inevitable. Today, there is an enormous amount of money flow through the hands of those who control events in the sense that they can direct those funds everywhere they wish. Sport governance is multinational, creating obstacles for any individual country to exercise adequate control. There is an inherent imbalance between the power of athletes collectively and those who control sports governance. Athletes are generally unorganized, have limited periods in which they compete, and are dependent on the governance institution for the right to compete and are under the immediate control of coaches, trainers, and medical personnel. And those who control sports governance are in it for a long run. The terms and are free for making alliances and deals with very little, if any, oversight and accountability. Just recently, a president of a well-known international federation was elected for the 6th time. I believe Donald Trump would like that rule. That's an American pun. He left. Good. Due to the discovery of all these facts, we at Fair Sport have evolved to helping eradicate corruption in sport through good governance and democracy, and help promote and support an independent and transparent anti-doping system in the world. We cannot compromise with corruption. Despite all of the sordid details that we have exposed over the past 4 years, the response from governance institution has been timid. Russia, example, has never been fully accountable for what it did. Athletes who were victimized have been ignored. And actually, there's more than 10 athletes who never will see the medal they deserve from Sochi. The system, if you can call it that, for investigating and adjudicating issues of systematic cheating are weak, fragmented, and erratic. The IOC, they created 2 more commissions to investigate the same facts, which was presented by McLaren. And still today, the international federations are sitting on over 350 cases presented by WADA from the LIM system, which has not been announced or investigated. The CAS decision that exonerated 28 athletes IOC had banned in farce, where there has been found many contradictory issues in their 2 presented decision related to individual athletes. And I hope Professor McLaren will present some of his views on the CAS findings. But I think one example is just worth exploring. The CAS review panel did not agree with the multiple T marks found on the bottles and the scratch marks. They disagreed that the multiple T marks was not enough evidence that there was manipulation of bottles. The lab directors in Lausanne who tested the bottles found that 36 of the 127 Russian bottles have multiple T marks, and they're part of a swapping of the urines. In addition to those bottles, the lab tested 44 other bottles, which was not Russians. 22 was randomly selected, and 22 came from the Beringer company. And they were tested to find multiple T marks, and there were none on these bottles found. CAS explained that there could be other reasons, meaning a random act to be actually finding T mark, multiple T marks on the bottles. So what's the chance to find then 44 bottles with multiple T marks due to random act? You would say there will be the same numbers of bottles with how many will you find of the 44 with multiple T marks? Well, we calculated by mathematicians, statisticians in the Norwegian University of Oslo University, and he said that there's actually 1 out of 2.5 million chance that the Russians was random act of the 36 hours. So 1 out of 2.5 million. For the Norwegians in this room, they knows that in Norway the lotto chance, like be a lotto-millionaire, 1 in 5 million chance, okay? So the Russian team should come to Norway, and there have been 18 lotto-millionaires. They would have won. We believe there is a lot more to be done. Who gets cheated? We, the people, get cheated. Not the sport federations, not the teams around the athletes. It's the people who support and works in sport. We are the public who get cheated. We need to find ways to be able to create new rules that we see that the society can be protected and that clean athletes can be protected. We cannot generate public or get the financial gains to sport through our interest, and we get cheated really, really bad. I'm very excited that today my brother will speak later in the conference, a prosecutor in financial crime unit in Oslo. I will put this issue and touch on this issue and present in his presentation. We at Fair Sport thoroughly support transparency, the independence, and the ethical, strong governance with separation of power in the anti-doping world. We need to do this for our children and for the future of sport. Thank you.
Thank you, Johan Olav. That was the first opening remarks. The second opening remarks is also a great honor to have our next guest on the stage. He is working for peace worldwide. Today he's going to talk about ethics in sport more than following the rules. He's the founder of World Forum for Ethics in Business and Art of Living. Ladies and gentlemen, Shri Ravi Shankar, ladies and gentlemen.
Madam Prime Minister and Your Excellencies and the celebrities of sports here. Sports is not just an entertainment but an expression of life itself. The first thing we did in our life as kids, we started playing. Nobody needed to teach us games. We started playing. And you see the games prevalent in this, not just in human species, but if you happen to see some kittens in your garden or some monkeys in your garden, that we find out right in India, of course. It's fun to watch. It's as good as watching a soccer game. The way little monkeys play with each other and tell us something here. It's not just about following rules, but life or sport is an expression of joy. It's not finding joy when you win or when you lose, not being happy when you lose. The very act, the very process, the moment you started kicking the first ball, you're enjoying already and people are enjoying it. So that is the spirit of sports which originally began it. Sports is where all our spirits are strengthened and made to express its innate nature, that is joy. But now, why do match fixing happen? Why do doping happen? Because we are taking sports too seriously. Today sports are played like wars and wars are being played like sports, as games. This need to be reversed, and it's only possible with ethics in its place. So ethics are not just following rules, but supporting the spirit of both the players and the audience. I would like to mention a recent thing that happened in India. Just a week ago, there was this sports, play between Afghanistan and India. For the first time there was cricket tournament. Afghans came to India to play with one of our team there. Of course, India has been playing this for a long time, so they won. But when it came to giving the trophy, the Indian team invited the Afghan team to encourage them, and they first said we would like to get it from them. So in sports, there are two attitudes of which I feel is very important. One is either you win or you make others win. So there is a joy in making others win also. As elders, when you play games with little kids, you have more joy, more fun in making your kids win the game, not you winning all the time. So when this sincerity in playing a game, at the same time, not being too attached to the outcome of the game, I feel exhibit the highest standards in sports. What do you say? I'm sure you all agree with me. Then this also gives enough enthusiasm and energy to both the players and the spectators. Unfortunately, in the past 2 decades, commerce has been attached in a big way with the sports. I mean, commerce is part of sports, but it should be like the frame of a picture. If the frame of a picture is the picture, then there is something seriously wrong. So when commerce becomes the biggest thing, then match fixing happens. The goal is no more sports, it is business. So the erosion of ethics, either in business or in politics or in sports, is attributed to the greed and the insecurity in the minds of people. So we need to uplift the human values. We need to bring that, as our previous speakers emphasized, integrity, honesty, and a sense of belongingness with fellow human beings. That human values, strengthening human values, giving courage and encouragement forms very integral part if we need to combat doping as well as match fixing. So honesty, integrity are part of the rules of any game. But for people to pay attention to this, we need to make it more prominent. Don't you think so? Because when you think of ethics, you think it's only for business or in politics, nothing to do with sports. This idea we need to reinstill in people or bring into their awareness, create an awareness. Look, winning is not the goal, but playing the game with ethics, with values is most important. So I would request the Sports Authority also to, recognize this fact that people with high ethical standards who have this sense of responsibility, not just for their team, but for other sportsmen around the world, should be awarded, and they should be rewarded for their encouraged to spread their talents. Norway is one such country which is very high on its ethics, and I don't have to talk about it here. It is almost ingrained in people, but this is needed in many other parts of the world. I am very glad today His Excellency the Ambassador of America and the Norwegian, in his presence, the Norwegian Sports Authority signed the anti-doping agreement here. I wish a similar agreement is done around the globe. No doubt we need strict rules and regulations, but rules alone will not help. We need inspiration and encourage our young people to live a stress-free and happy life, which would contribute in their business, as in their not just business, in their sports, will come out in their sports as role models for coming generations. With these words, I once again thank the organizers here. Of course, World Forum for Ethics is one of the organizers, but also all others who have jointly come together to give this message to the world community that we are not going to take lightly cheating in the name of sports. The world is more aware now, awake. We are going to stand up and not let a few people spoil this beautiful feel of expression of life which are gift for humanity. With these few words, I thank you once again. All the best.
Thank you very much. The next speaker, we are over to the keynote speaker. The next speaker is the Minister of Children and Equality, but today she is here in her role as a Vice President of WADA. Ladies and gentlemen, Linda Hofstad Helland.
Distinguished speakers and participants, allow me first to thank World Forum of Ethics in Business, Fair Sport and Anti-Doping Norway for organizing this conference. As you know, recent events and the challenges to the anti-doping community have shaken the confidence of athletes and the public in our ability to combat doping. When we, as the anti-doping movement, lose the public's confidence, we lose credibility. Without credibility, we lose the trust of governments. In the long run, clean athletes will question how the anti-doping community are to safeguard their interests. Where will we, the anti-doping community, be headed if governments distrust us and athletes lose confidence in our ability to act in a coordinated way? As a cabinet minister of the Norwegian government, I know firsthand how important credibility is for our work and our priorities in all our decision making. And the anti-doping movement should be built on its credibility. Right now, the credibility is threatened. And I, as Vice President, nominated by the public authorities, need to be accountable to the governments that nominated me. But I notice, day by day, that governance within the sports movement are not as democratic as it should be, and is under pressure. A strong and independent WADA is the key in our way forward. We need to work hard to earn trust, which in turn will give us the necessary and much needed funding from the governments. And the governments need to take more responsibility for the anti-doping work. We need to put more efforts into the anti-doping movement. And we, as governments of the world, need to point out the right direction. And that direction means more independence, more transparency, more democracy in the fight against doping. During WADA meetings in Montreal last month, we experienced questions about the work that has been conducted by the Compliance Review Committee, the CRC. And dear friends, it worries me that this question is being asked. We need to remember that the CRC was established as an independent standing committee under the Constitution of WADA. And the main objective of the CRC is to recommend to the WADA Executive Committee whether a signatory are compliant or not compliant. For us, as the Executive Committee, not to rely on the outcome of the decisions made by the CRC is, of course, not acceptable. We know they made their decision on strict adherence with the International Standard for Code Compliance. A decision made by CRC must be taken into account by the Executive Committee. and not doubt at any time the competence and expertise of CRC. The fact that a decision by the CRC does not suit any of the parties of the Executive Committee cannot result in putting the decision by the CRC aside. Decisions must be based on facts and rules, and not on what suits any of the parties in particular. WADA's roadmap has been a clear and strong message in the fight against doping. We need to be clear in our communication. As the world governing body on the anti-doping, WADA needs to be seen as an organization sport fans and the athletes can rely on. Athletes and athletes organizations tells us that the situation around the Winter Olympics in Pyeongchang was confusing. And a statement by the German Olympic Sports Confederation Athletes Commission stated, "A public view will state a failure to make investigations transparent, a failure to control itself, and a failure to implement effective sanctions mechanisms." Statements like this from athletes should be taken very seriously, especially by WADA. Clean athletes and clarity around rules, around consequences. They deserve open and transparent hearings when vital decisions are to be made. We have to put pressure on the sports organizations to make them understand that processes like this and processes like the last couple of years reduce the credibility of the entire anti-doping community. And that's why, good friends, it's time for a new roadmap. A roadmap of trust. A roadmap of trust will raise the importance of good governance involving independence, transparency, and democracy. A roadmap of trust must be based on our common values and the athletes' voices as our guides. I have been speaking publicly and suggested a review of the anti-doping system in light of what happened during the last 2.5 years. A number of issues have ascended from this. For example, many athletes, but media and the public are confused, as some athletes can compete in international competitions, while the same athletes are not allowed to compete in the Olympics. Additionally, the role of the international federations in terms of allowing competitions to be organized in Russia, while others do not allow that to happen. Many have questioned if some elements of the system should be reviewed when 28 athletes are acquitted by cause and 11 are not. Well, the Olympic Commission ruled differently based upon a very comprehensive review of these cases and many more. Dear anti-doping friends, this is a crucial moment for the anti-doping movement. Let us make sure we take the right choices. History will judge us based on the decisions and actions we take now. Let us be sure that we are on the right side. Let us make sure that we, in all our behavior, focus on good governance and use democratic tools in all our actions. And that is why I announced that I will try to be elected as the new president of WADA. I do expect and hope that more candidates will step forward. And in that way, we can have a proper and transparent debate about the future values and policies for the anti-doping movement. We have to remember, it is on our watch the clean athletes tells us they are confused and don't think they are properly heard. It is on our watch that the protection of whistleblowers is more vital than ever before. Only then can we disclose people who threaten our system, who threaten the world of sport. Every day we delay our actions is a day lost in protecting the world of sports against the forces that is aiming to harm it. If we want to change, we have to change. And the change starts with us, each one of us sitting here today. Good luck with the conference, and thank you very much.
Thank you, Vice President, Minister Linda. We go on to the next keynote speaker. And I guess a day like this, when you see all the institutions who like to be a part of it, you see the vital hosts who are hosting this event, and you see the next speaker, who is a German politician. He's at the European Parliament, and he is also board member of World Forum for Ethics in Business. Ladies and gentlemen, meine Damen und Herren, Jo Leinen.
Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, dear friends, among other sports, I played football for many years, and normally I'm quite passionate on World Cups. But this time I must admit I'm quite cool. First, because I don't see that the procedure to give that World Cup to Russia by FIFA and Sepp Blatter was clear and maybe even not clean. Second, that my German team is quite mediocre and moderate this time. I looked only the last 5 minutes on Saturday evening. And third, no, that was a joke, but third, I don't know how many of these football players running in the grass are doped. And that is really the big problem. And we have seen that in Russia it has a history. The Olympics in 1980, an Australian study stated that nearly no medal winner was free of doping. Then in Sochi, IAAF recognized that it is a state-organized doping. And when I see that Hajo Seppelt is threatened with his life and his health going to Russia because he discovered all this, I have not a real taste to follow the World Cup, even I'm a passionate football player. And that is exactly why we come together. Sport is too beautiful to be spoiled by these dirty practices, by big money and sometimes nationalistic prestige. And I think that Europe has to be leader with others in the world to be a model. We have to be a leader and role model. And I'm very happy that our two big organizations on this continent, the Council of Europe, even more, but as well the European Union, got active in the last years because we see the dangers. And the European Parliament is the citizen chamber in the European Union, and we have a sports intergroup, which is one of the biggest. The digital intergroup and sports intergroup is cross-party and cross-country. And we care since many years on the problems of sport today. And recently we have decided on a big report with 79 recommendations and requests for EU sports policy. We can do a lot. Laws, Sri Ravi Shankar is right, is not all. Laws is the last thing that you need if others are not succeeding. But you have to create an atmosphere and a framework where sports can play its role. I only will mention for time reasons a few of these elements. Of course, we call on the spirit of sport as a celebration of human body and mind, as characterized by values of ethics, of fair play and honesty, excellence in performance, character and education, fun and joy, teamwork, dedication and commitment, respect for rules and laws. And of course, we know that doping, like match fixing, is undermining the principle of open and fair competition, and it's a demotivating factor. Demotivating and doping even a threat to individual health. We call on the member states to support doping controls, have national testing programs and legislations allowing coordination and information sharing between official authorities, sport organizations and anti-doping agencies. We had one idea to introduce peer review. As it reads, call on member states in Europe to encourage and facilitate the negotiation of agreements permitting duly authorized doping control teams from other countries to conduct testing. That would help a lot if not your own doping agency, but the others could come and monitor and test. As we have election observation missions, we could have doping observation missions. And we see that doping and these unhealthy practices are not only done in professional sport, but more and more as well in recreational sport. If I look in one sport center back home, it looks like a pharmacy. See what the people that just want to have joy, what they all take to have bigger muscles and to be fitter. This is not healthy. Of course, we all know, and it is stressed today again and again, that sports can help us to build a united and inclusive society, to move barriers and enable people to respect each other by building bridges across cultures and across ethnic and social divides. And we have so many refugees and migrants. And in the Parliament we have started 2 programs, Sport as a tool for integration and social inclusion for refugees, and coaching through sports of youngsters at risk of radicalization. I think this money is really a good value. If you invest in young people, engaging them in whatever sport, I think we can de-radicalize, we can clear the minds, and by many good examples we can overcome that big problem that we have. Yeah, ladies and gentlemen, I think we all agree. I have not to repeat what everybody is saying. Maybe only one idea that Professor Dr. Franke, a German sports scientist and philosopher, he described sport as a world in itself. And the world in itself is due to 2 opposing principles. Yeah? On the one hand, athletes have to defeat their opponents, while on the other hand, they should show utmost fairness. And through our activities of fairness in sport, I got to become a counselor of a second league team in Germany, FC Union Berlin, the second team from East Germany. And me, like others, Christoph is a part of it. I'm really astonished that in a professional league where they need money and they have 30,000 spectators, the philosophy of the leadership of that sports team is, yes, it's good when we win, but we celebrate as well when we lose, because it is a real collective event. 90 minutes in the stadium. They have, and they are known in Germany for the best atmosphere, and they do so much for young people, for social inclusion and for environment activities. That's a role model I hold that could really be spread all over the sports world. And therefore, I think moral education, ethical training, that is a chance to combine the 2 sides of the model, this world of itself, what sport represents. And therefore, I think this conference, I'm happy to be here. It shows our willingness and our engagement. We don't give up. Sports should be there to empower people and to enjoy the people. And therefore, I think it's very good to have been invited by our Norwegian friends. Thank you.